Well, I'm getting very comfortable in this chair. This is, my fourth time up here today, and how interesting that we're getting it all back to Thailand now, and that's sort of what we're going to focus on in our panel here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for that. That was great. Isn't it exciting to see some of these examples of these exponential technologies? Remember what we talked about yesterday, how some of these things seem like, wow, we sure made some big jumps and we sure seem to make them fast. It feels like that when we talk about being able to make mice see in the dark, right? That's just amazing stuff. And when you think about where that's going to go, all the examples that you used, it's exciting for the world and for Thailand. So again, thank you all for being up here. Why don't we start by finding out a little bit about each of you, if we can do that. Mijak, why don't we start with you? How did you end up here in Thailand?
Well, I was originally born in Poland, as you can probably figure out from my name. Though I spent most of my life in the United States. I was a professor of strategy at Harvard Business School for longer than I remember. And then in 2014, I moved to IMD, which is a business school in Switzerland that is a very unique business school in that it only does executive education. And one day we got a phone call from a very progressive, what later turned out to be a very progressive company here in Thailand by the name of Siam Commercial Bank. And we actually started running an executive education program for them. And I started coming, and I just realized I'm coming here more and more and more. And part of the reason why is that I actually found that people here in Thailand were much more open to different creative ways of teaching, much more so than in Europe. And so next thing you know, I've actually moved here as of November last year. So very excited to be here joining you on the stage.
Well, wonderful. What a great journey. Chaya, how about you? How did you get to Thailand?
That's a tricky question.
Yes.
Again, I'm Thai, I'm local, so been here for my whole life. And I'm working for a company named PTT Global Chemical, or you can call us GC, right? And I think I have to say I'm very excited to be here. And from hearing from you guys for the past 2 years, today, I'm sorry. You can see technology can do, right? And I think in Thailand, we are pushing very hard on the Industry 4.0, right? And it's going to be very, very critical for all of us in Thailand because we try to maintain or even improve our competitiveness, not just on the company level, for the country level. And be part of a community is very exciting, and maybe someone from the audience can also share the experience, what they like to hear or what they are doing in Thailand.
Great, great. Okay, Anya. So what was your journey? First of all, how did you end up in this field, and like what makes you excited about all this? Why do you do this particular thing?
I think, how did I end here? I think I have a major in physics, and then my PhD was actually on making atomic force microscopes. So at that time, it was really early on. So there was a lot of pioneering spirit. Nobody really knew what they were doing. So I thought that was really fun. I mean, fascinating. So being part of a field that's just beginning has always been fascinating, and it still is.
It still is, isn't it? Yeah, and you all have a vibe of let's also do it for good.
Yes.
Not just, it's interesting, but it's meaningful.
Yes.
Right?
That's
and I think
really important.
You've all expressed that in the discussions that we've had and emails that we've shared leading up to this. So, as I mentioned earlier, we wanted to bring this a little bit back to Thailand and talk a little bit about some of the things happening now that you're excited about, but in particular, the things you're excited about that we believe are going to hit that exponential ramp here soon, and what that might mean to Thailand. And so let's get specific and talk about bringing meaning to Thailand with all this stuff we're talking about. Mijak, why don't we start with you? What are you excited about? You are the newest of the...
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I find fascinating is just the general openness, and I already alluded to this, right? And you'll talk pretty soon about what you guys are doing in PTT, and we're actually also working with PTT on executive education, and I see from the conversations with the top management team just this incredible openness to new technologies, much more so than you see anywhere else. And that has me really, really excited. And it's not only in the manufacturing sector you see this, but you also see this in banking, you also see this in retail, you see this in commercial developments. And so I think that's really open. And I also like about what I'm seeing is that, you know, a lot of this conference is about the underlying technologies, right? But there is a big gap between converting these technologies into implementation in businesses. And for that, you actually have to employ a lot of strategies, organizational strategies, to really transform people and transform the structures. And in our experience, actually, this is where it fails, right? Because it's really easy to talk about technology, but to then say, here is a, like in your case, $50 billion company, can you please adopt that? That's really difficult. So you actually have to create these special structures. You have to actually invest a lot of money into creating either subdivisions or completely new startup organizations that are basically becoming disruptive organizations to the existing organizations. And, you know, I mean, like, for example, I look with great admiration what SCG, so what biggest cement company is doing here. I mean, those guys are investing a lot of money into creating a completely new startup organization that is in constant contact with Silicon Valley, or they're always going to China, or they're always going to Europe or Israel to learn the newest technologies, bringing in, incubate it inside of the organization, and then once something is successful, move it over to mothership. That openness, that sort of ability to look outside, and that ability to sort of incubate and then hand over for scaling, I think is getting done really, really well. And so it's both really well for the country. I think it's a really good start.
Nice. Do you believe that that is a path that's going to continue, specifically around infrastructure and?
Not only, I mean, seriously, I think this applies to everything. I mean, I've seen some really amazing developments, you know, from sort of primary extraction of materials, right, through manufacturing, through services and financial services, right? And then what I also like is that every time you throw a new topic, so one thing that I'm extremely passionate about, which actually applies to manufacturing quite a lot, is digital twins. And I don't know how much time you talked about digital twins here, right? But I mean, we're seeing incredible improvements in effectiveness and efficiency of manufacturing once digital twins are introduced. And I have to say, so I've actually worked with a number of companies in Europe who are responsible for driving that, and some companies who are doing it here and in the region. And it's like 3 times, 4 times faster here than what you see in Europe. And I think that's partly because people here realize that there's just so much more to gain, right? So the efficiency gains here are just so much faster and so much bigger with the introduction of digital twins. And people see that and really push on that really fast. So I do see actually a lot of opportunity coming up. Of course, everything as always has to be judged as compared to China, right? And could we move at China's speed? Yes, we could. I think that the Chinese still have a leg up on us in terms of the speed of adoption of these things. It's just, that's what the benchmark is. But having said that, a lot of people from here keep going to, I keep seeing people on my flight to Shanghai all the time from Thailand who are sort of saying, you know, heading out there to figure out what the new technologies are and how to adopt them.
So would you agree with that assessment? And also, what are you excited about as well? But before you answer that, what, would you agree?
Absolutely. I would say Thailand is no different. We are being disrupted, right, on most of industry. I think for the past maybe 5 years, you've seen a lot of example in Thailand, right? You're talking about financial services, banking, media, entertainment, or even the telecommunication. But even manufacturing sector, we are also seen as not just a threat, but opportunities too, right? How to adopt or take advantage of technology. For example, at PTGC, right, we has been on the journey to transform the company. But not just bringing the technology, I think that's not too difficult. We have a lot of choices these days, right? Technology is getting cheaper. So to apply across different businesses or function is not that challenging, but to transform the company, not just bring in technology, but in terms of the people, in terms of business process, right? In GC, we call it a triple transformation, to transform the business, the people, and also technology. and to, how to reskill or even upskill the people to understand. They may have a digital literacy at the same level of understanding, and also for them to be able to apply the technology in whatever function they're working on, right? So I think at the beginning, we start at the manufacturing side, bringing technology for example, preventive maintenance, save a lot of costs for the company. And then we expand to do supply chain logistics, right? We even, in terms of safety, something very simple. I think we have a lot of fleet in the company, right? People are driving. And we've seen a lot of problem in the past because they drive maybe 7-8 hours a day, right? We brought in the AI, right? Partnering with Microsoft and some company in Thailand, put the sensor in the car, right? And then try to monitor what is their behavior when we're driving. We've seen a lot of improvement in terms of road safety. I think it's one example is technology could be helpful, right? In the manufacturing side, I think people talk about for the past 2 days, right? We can bring in a lot of tools. You talk about AR, VR, that's what we have done also. And also, we in the petrochemical sector, so a lot of assets need to put on the ground, right? We talk about billions of dollars, and it's not too easy for us to change, to reconfiguration of a plant, but how to retrofit in terms of bringing new technology. And we use AI in terms of process optimization, and we've seen even improvement in a few percent. I think there's a lot of profit to the bottom line, right? So I think everybody can do, not just on petrochemicals, but all the manufacturing sector, or everyone in the audience, they can adopt and also try to implement this kind of technology.
So when we hear you say, you're saying all the right words. These are the kinds of things that we like to hear that companies do. I think we're curious, how did PTC get there? Was this hard? Is this just the culture at the company? It's just the way it is, and you are an exponential company, and you're on your journey. Was this a challenge to get to this mindset that you're describing here?
I think this is challenging, but it can be done. Meaning, have come from the top. I think we have to believe that our aspiration is possible. And even though in our sector is quite new, meaning industrial IoT and also how to implementing the technology, right? But I think when we're changing the mindset of people in the company, okay, we believe it can be done, and we can transform the business process, right? The way they work, what their workflow in company, how to cut down a few steps, how to streamline the process, and then use digital technology as a tools, right? And people will see the benefit. It's not going to see it as a threat. So people are collaborate and helping each other in terms of to transform the company. So I think it's possible, and I think anyone can do if you start with the mindset, with the right mentalities.
Fabulous. Mijak, did you want to
Well, I just was in conversation with your CEO yesterday, and what I found very impressive about the conversations with him is he sort of like has sort of 3 horizon thinking, right? And a lot of the stories that he told were like, look, in the short term, there's a lot that can be gained by just very simple things. So instead of a guy driving and checking on the pipeline, we can put a drone, and drone can check things through, right? You can put something inside of the pipeline that basically monitors what's happening inside of the pipeline, so we can fix something before it collapses. So these are not massive technological improvements. They're small things, but they're very much driven by business logic, right? And so not technology for technology's sake, but it's like, what kind of business problem are we solving? Let's do it, right? And then there's the second and third horizon where we're fundamentally sort of thinking about the kinds of things you were talking about and investing for the future. So to me, I think what is really key in these organizations is to build a mindset for all 3 things.
Absolutely.
And show real quick results with technology, so people say, oh, there is actually something in here. There is no reason for us to be dreading this digital transformation.
That's right.
And then you can have some basic business results that then you can start plow money into future development. Really critical from my perspective.
This is absolutely a yes and. At least in America, we say yes and, right? Instead of no or only do it this way, it's yes and these things that we're talking about here. So, pretty fancy stuff that you were showing up there. And bringing it back to Thailand here, what are your thoughts? Local, connected, and what's this going to mean for specifically Thailand? Not countries like Thailand, but Thailand. What do you think?
I think that a lot of it can be picked up. It doesn't really require a lot of expensive infrastructure. Even if it comes to nano manufacturing, embossing nanostructures into polymers, I'm sure you do a lot of polymer plastic fabrication already. You can order a master from somewhere else and then just start producing. So I think there's a lot in agriculture. Textile industry would be a lot of nano applications. Oil refinery. I've read that Thailand wants to upscale our next generation oil refinery, sustainable energy. So I can see a lot of applications that would be possible without a lot of new investments, but of course it's kind of thinking differently. And maybe coming back today to that, I think the opening talk yesterday was very interesting, where it was said that the most important ministry in Thailand is the Ministry of Education.
Yes.
And I'll just say the students I've met going to conferences, coming from Thailand or visiting our university, they are smart and they're very open-minded and they're very creative. But what I think they miss, a lot of them, is hands-on experience. It seems they have not had this chance to really touch things, build things, experiment in labs. So it's kind of teaching them from the beginning a lot of the things, practical work. And then later on, maybe also focus on startup mentality among the students. So some more entrepreneurial training and open maker spaces. It's probably already happening, but I can just see that the students and the mentality is really fantastic. So I think there's a lot to build on. And I just compared to my own university, a lot of the great ideas, they're not coming from me. They come from the students.
So, hey, I'm wondering why we don't have executive programs for 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
No, we do.
Oh, do you?
We do, yeah.
Well, there you go.
Actually,
Okay.
so it's actually one of the key reasons why I came here is that we were actually developing a lot of programming in Thai. So we actually, what we're doing is we're taking our executive education programs and we're putting them online and we're putting them all in Thai exactly for that reason, which is what you're seeing right now is that because technologies are accelerating exponentially, even if you went to the best university with best technological knowledge, but it was 20 years ago, you don't have a chance. Like the world has moved too fast, so you need to be constantly updating yourself. And in addition, you know, there's a lot of people here in this room who sort of benefited a lot from these talks. But when you go back to your organization, you want to make sure that people around you with whom you work who are not able to come here also understanding what you're talking about. Because if you're the only one who knows, it's not useful. So what we constantly, our strategy right now is to work executive education programs for top managers, but then programs with the same content in Thai rolled out to people who work with them so that you can actually get these synergies and put people
That's
forward.
great. We clearly have to have that kind of creative, clever thinking in order to meet some of these challenges. And couldn't agree more that technology for technology's sake is never the right answer, and that in fact it requires these other components. I mean, look in the world of AI right now. The expectation isn't that there will be necessarily any major technology-specific thing that happens to accelerate all these things we've been seeing with deep learning, machine learning. It's the clever entrepreneur who's looking at things that will find new ways with maybe even existing or old technology that will be a part of saving the world or an economy in a country or things. And I think that's super true, that we can never forget technology in and of itself.
Yeah.
And I think that's been true since we first picked up stones and started chipping away.
Although there is one AI technology that actually has me sleepless, and that's adversarial networks, generative adversarial networks. So you must have seen, if you haven't seen JN at work, it's basically the best one. What would be the best website? So there's a website called thispersondoesn'texist.com.
Yeah.
Go and see it, right? And that's the best example of generative adversarial network, where a computer can actually create something, right? If we're just thinking about AI in terms of predictions, then that's easy, right? But if the second it gets creative, I'm sure, I don't know.
Well, you saw that yesterday in my opening talk, right?
Makes music, yeah.
Music and art.
Yeah.
Right.
things that we've traditionally said, wait a minute, that's us.
Right. And then next thing you know is like R&D departments are not relevant. So then technology
No, that's
can
never
really.
going to happen.
Say again?
That's never going to happen.
Well, I don't know.
So these are all good data points for the whole nature of the exponential thing that we're talking about. I'll throw out there as a person from the biology world. There was just yesterday a new moment in digital biology. You should look this up. A company has now been able to do a synthetic genome 4 million base pairs long. And that's a big, big deal as we think about the future of manufacturing. Because you'll remember yesterday I said, even in manufacturing biology, and several speakers have, is in your future. You should be paying attention to these kinds of things. All these things we're talking about are on that scale and happening. Real quick, in the last few minutes we have, who's super excited about something in particular they'd like to share that is really specific to Thailand? I'm going to start by saying, I am still super excited about John. Stand up and hold that arm up over there and wave that arm. Still excited. If you haven't stopped off and seen those tables out there, go out and talk to these folks about that. Not just because of 3D printers as they are now, but because I have a pretty good idea where material science is going and where additive manufacture is going. And if it can do that now, just imagine what it's going to do in just a few years. What about you guys? What are you thinking about like that makes you happy? Any of you have anything? I'm putting you on the spot.
Exactly. But I think that Thailand has so much knowledge in manufacturing, actually. I mean, it could be textile or agriculture. So I think there's so much knowledge. So you actually have a step ahead compared to a lot of companies who are trying to bring back manufacturing, including Denmark. It's trying to bring manufacturing back. But they need to recruit new type of people and need to start again. So I think if you can kind of add on what you have already, I think it would be super strong. And actually, yeah, that would be my take.
Yeah. Either of you guys? Maybe even around not just technology, but what in the future of executive programs. I mean, seriously, the 7-year-olds of the world have to understand this stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
We need them to early.
Yeah.
What's your science fiction moment for Thailand?
Oh, science fiction.
Positive science fiction
Positive
moment.
science fiction for Thailand.
Yeah.
I do see, hopefully, a significant investment by the middle level of Thailand. So the sort of, if you sort of think about the Thai economy, there's the PTTs and SCGs of the world, but there's just an insanely large number of these mid-sized enterprises, right? And one thing that we know when we do research on these companies is that the productivity gains have not been very big in these companies, right? So most of the productivity gains in Thailand are by the big corporations, not by this middle layer. And that worries me because the competition is going to intensify again through China. And so there's sort of two things that you can do. You can either just continue to try to catch up with productivity, or you can make the leap, right? And my hope is that there's going to be that leap, right? Because I just don't think that you want to be competing against, the Chinese and people in neighboring countries. I do think that I hope that the people will take some of these technologies and start basically jumping into new.
I think you're a believer. I think it's more than hope because you're living here, you're involved, you're doing it. It seems like you're believing.
But notice I sort of paused for a second, right? Because I am actually a believer in the big companies, but there's a bit of a question mark in the middle layer, and I do wonder what's needed. As one of the things that I've actually been puzzling, and education is definitely one of them. Maybe it's access to finance, maybe, but I do think there is also just something around mindset, and I haven't quite figured out what it is yet. But to me, that's the band that really needs to accelerate.
Seems like that middle layer is represented here over these 2 days as well. Yeah. So that's you guys, by the way, that middle layer. Anything else that?
But I think I quite agree with Nicholas. I think that the big company that have resources, right, to bring in the technology or even develop their own technology. But I think SME are the backbone of our economy, and they don't have resources to do that. But somehow we have to do a few things, right? How to uplift our so-called digital infrastructure of the country, and people have access to those kind of infrastructure. I think secondly, how to basically help the SME for them to have more capabilities, or how can they adopt the technology. And I think that would be very important for the whole economy, right? Otherwise, not just a big company doing it, but somehow I think we have to help the SME too.
Okay. Well, then with that, I'm going to lift our glass because we're going to end on a
Okay, cheers.
we say
Cheers.
Choya?
So yeah, right.
Choya, Thailand. Okay,
Chayo.
please thank our panelists today. Choya, Thailand. Thank you all.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.